Hello there, I'm Scotty. You're not. Back on the train for. I don't know why I said train. I didn't even do that. I'm trying to cross out stuff that I took off the list. That's gone, that's gone, that's gone. This one is gone. Whatever today's day is, we're talking about Hoodwinked. Yes, the little animated movie that could. That's, very cheaply made with bargain bin special effects, bargain bin animation that went to theaters. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know either. Every time I watch this, which this is probably the third time I've watched it, because we actually went to the theater to see this. Yes, it was a thing. I don't know what it was for. It was March. I think it's come out in March or something. Might have been for my brother's birthday. I don't know. We went to see it in 2006. The four of us, me, my mom, my brother, and my sister. We went to see this. The trailers sold it as this twist on the classic fairy tale of Little Red Riding Hood. I can speak English. And so it was kind of interesting in that way. But the animation looked terrible. We still went though. And all these years later, especially now in 2025, woof, the effects look terrible. This was a theatrical movie. Yeah. And we have a top tier voice cast here. Off the top of my head, we have Anne Hathaway, Glenn Close, Jim Belushi, David Ogden Stiers, Patrick Warburton, Exhibit, who, despite what that cover says, is not the henchman dude, but the police chief bear. And we have Andy Dick. Because when I made a kids movie, I think Andy Dick. So as I said, the story presents it as Little Red Riding Hood twisted around. You get the endings of what seems to be Little Red Riding Hood's story, and then stuff happens that twists it around. You got a police investigation. Yeah. So we actually start with Red, voiced by Anne Hathaway, arriving in her grandma's cottage, and the wolf is dressed as the grandma, and we do, those dang big ears you have, big eyes you have, all that stuff, with a little bit different dialogue, when the grandma bursts out of the closet, not dead, or eaten, as the story would have you believe, but also then the woodsman guy comes crashing through the other side of the wall. Yeah, and then we get the title card, Hoodwinked. The police show up, and we have a police investigation as to what is going on. It seems that there has been some kind of bandit, a goodie bandit, stealing all of the baked goods throughout the far, far away land, or whatever they're from. And they seem to have an open shut case, but I think it is actually the wolf, but not necessarily. So, because, cops, even animated movie cops, they think an open shut case, well, there it is. But no, we meet the Inspector Flippers, voiced by David Ogden Stiers. Do not ask why he's called Flippers. I do not want to see that dance sequence again. And so he puts on this investigation to find out the truth, interviews Red first, and asks her to tell him exactly what happened. And it's a musical. A horrible musical. If the music wasn't in the movie, the quality of the movie itself does not come from this music. Take the music out, this movie would be better. It almost feels like this movie is 81 minutes long. It feels like they had the movie done and said, this movie's not that long. Let's add songs in to stretch it out, because every single one of these songs are there to stretch out the runtime. There's really one. After they've investigated all 4 of the characters, and you think, now it's time to wrap up. No. Little Red gets all pissed at her granny, for reasons we'll talk about later, and we have this slow-ass, sad song. And I'm sitting here going, why are we still going? You have told 4 consecutive stories with one other side character in each one besides of the other characters. How do you not figure out who this culprit is? How? How are they not going, oh, it's this person? Yes, there are other side characters, but each one of these 4 stories has one character that pops up in every single story. That's not one of the other characters. All the other characters pop up in their stories. With the woodsman, it's towards the end. But one single solitary character pops up in each of the story. And I figured it out during the first story. In 2006. Yes. I started watching this. As soon as they showed this character, I went, he did it. This time, I remembered, because I remembered. But I remember in 2006 sitting in a theater and seeing this character pop up. And maybe it's not the first time he shows up. It's later. It's the second appearance in Red's story that I went, it's him. Of course, I didn't shout that to my family because, let them enjoy the movie. But, yeah, it's pretty obvious when there's no other, especially once you narrow down the suspects, this one character sticks out like a sore thumb. Ironically, I hurt this thumb trying to hurt this thumb. So, Red tells her story after this horrible song. Yeah, the songs are bad, by the way. They're just terrible. Apart from the goat's song about the many antlers that he has, or many horns that he has, that one is funny. Be prepared, be prepared, be prepared. That one is funny. Otherwise, everything else sucks. Anyway, Red has gone for a biker ride as she is delivering goodies for her grandma, and this is where we find out about the goodie bandit is stealing a bunch of recipes, so every other shop has to shut down. That's not how that works. You see, someone stole your recipes, but you have backups, and you take those to get patent, so that even though they have stolen your recipes, you have patented them, and they can no longer use them. It will be illegal. So you have the patents, you have everything, and someone starts selling something that is your property, that is patented, they go directly to jail, do not pass go, do not collect $200. But this is a children's movie with bad animation, so whatever. Anyway, she's riding her bike, and this is where she comes across a cute little bunny rabbit named Boingo. Voiced by Andy Dick. He did it. And yeah, see, it took me to the second time, the first time I watched this movie in 2006. Hearing that Andy Dick was the voice, he did it. You couldn't have gotten anyone with a less conspicuous voice. Anyone at all. Dave Foley would have been less conspicuous. Christopher Walken would have been less conspicuous. Tommy Wiseau going, oh, hi, Red, would be less conspicuous than Andy Dick. I'm serious. As soon as he started talking, I went, he did it. But yeah, he's, talking about, oh, it's so bad, I can't get any kind of treats anymore. And I'm just like, and he takes off. And so then she decides she's going to take the recipe book to her granny's house, but her granny's saying, no, it is dangerous. Do not do that. She's going to do it anyway. So she starts her journey, which leads her to a um, ski lift, which is ran by the bunny. Have I mentioned that he did it? And if the dialogue before wasn't obvious, or being voiced by Andy Dick wasn't obvious, here he clearly pushes her out of the lift, and but it looks like she tripped and fell, and he says no, making it appear as if he's yelling about her. But obviously, he pushed her and is yelling about that she grabbed her basket with the recipes in it. She lands in the woods where she meets the wolf, who seems scary but is not. She escapes the wolf and makes her way to her granny's cabin, where we find all the sort of stuff that happened, and the woodsman jumps in, and then we done with her story. I'm sure there was a little bit more to that story, but not really needed. Oh, she hears her grandma saying use the hood so she can fly when she gets back up there, or float, I guess, because her there's a train track that's broken. We find out how it got broke later, but it hits, she flies, and she has to use her cape to float to where the house is, and then we get up that. So that story's done. We hear from the wolf. But from the story, it's okay, it's the wolf. And they're like, no, you have to, every story. Now we hear the wolf, who's an investigative reporter. Yep. With a squirrel sidekick who swears he doesn't drink coffee, but later he does, and he's already wired, so why give him coffee? Yeah. So they're investigating this Goody Bandit, and so they're interviewing the people that have any shops that are left. And while doing this, he happens to run into the bunny. And I don't know if you know this, but he did it. Even this dialogue, where it's like, oh, just hopping along, and be a shame if something bad would happen at these places. I'm just like, come on. He's obviously doing this. The bunny even gives him a shortcut to Granny's house when they're going. That's where he comes across bunny, excuse me. They're hopping, investigating. He's got a wig on, which is stupid because he's a wolf. They do it again later, and it makes no sense. Whatever. Ow, it hurt my head. So he comes across the bunny, who gives him a shortcut, which is basically a long way through a sewer. He did it. It's obviously a detour to stop him from getting to Granny's house quick enough. But I digest. So they go, they eventually get out there, they land up in the woods, where they end up meeting Red, the whole thing. I mean, he's actually not being mean, he's just sort of, he said he'll get the goodies, because he thinks that she's the one that's doing it or something, and eventually they sneak into Granny's house. Granny's already tied up, somehow, we'll get to that. And maybe a lot older, I don't know. But because he hears Red, so he throws the squirrel in there. And then I forgot about the part where she meets the goat in her story. That's the best part of this movie for me, really. The goat does seem about being prepared, Anyway. So then the woodsman busts in, and it goes back to the way it was. So, yeah. So then we get the woodsman's story, right? By the way, after every story, the chief who is the bear, points to the person who told the story, and was like, no, stop. Just stop. It's after every one, really. It's like, you don't need to point your finger, pointing your finger at every person that's being talked to. So we get the woodsman's story. He's not even a woodsman, he's an actor. That's right, an actor who's working for a commercial, where it's a Paul Bunyan commercial, but he's dressed in lederhosen, so the Paul Bunyan analogy makes no sense. Paul Bunyan, He was a lumberjack who wore the blue jeans and the red flannel and a hat. This dude's dressed in lederhosen, and it makes no sense. I know that the Grimm fairy tales were German, but Paul Bunyan was not. Paul Bunyan is a goddamn Minnesotan legend. Alright? And the fact that you besmirch the name of Paul Bunyan and this giant blue ox named Beb by having this dude in a lederhosen makes no sense. By the way, supposedly Jim Belushi's trying to do an Austrian accent. What? I don't know what accent he's trying to do, but it's not Austrian. And he's supposed to be German or something. I don't know. They shot the commercial and they kind of let him go. He doesn't get a call back, but because that's what he's trying to explain. But his accent's so terrible, I don't know what he's saying. Anyway, so he explains that after he gets done with that, he sells schnitzel to little children. God awful, ugly little children. The animation in this movie is on par with Food Fight. And I have yet to review that movie. I refuse. It's one of those that I refuse, and I don't know. I have that series that I have called So Bad It's Good Theater or whatever. Cinema. So Bad It's Good Cinema. And I haven't done any for a while because I'm just not ready to step into that. But anyway, and he leaves to go practice chopping down the trees because he got the call back. And when he comes back, his entire truck his tires have been taken, his stencils are gone, and the bunny is there, and that's what happened. And guess what? He did it. And if it wasn't obvious before, the bunny showing up after the truck has been burglarized. Bunny did it. So maybe he wasn't chopping down the trees. He was singing the song about giving the schnitzel to the children, which sounds wrong. And then he got the phone for the call back, and he goes back, and his thing's been destroyed. So he decides to go into the woods and start doing the chopping of the trees. And he chops one, which makes him run to the grandma's house and burst through the window. Boom. That's the end of his story. And now we get Granny's story. She's an extreme sports enthusiast with a Triple G tattoo because Triple X was a thing at this point. Yeah. And at one point, she's on a ski mountain and she meets the bunny rabbit. He did it. And while she's skiing, she's that fella there, who is the henchman of the Goody Bandit, the bunny, because he did it. So she's chased by these guys and supposedly taken out, but she's not. She eventually gets back up. She tries to make her way home and skydives, but gets stuck. Also, it's revealed that the wolf and the squirrel were responsible for the tracks being blown up by using dinamite. It must be Italian. Cause Christmas story joke. Dinamite must be Italian. Fragile must be Italian. Anyway, she skydives or something and gets stuck. This is where I don't know. This is where Red hears her say to use the hood, and then she's parachuting. She lands in her house and gets tangled up in the parachute and lands because of the fan, and lands in her closet. She wasn't even tied up. It was an accident. Yet somehow, the culprit, the bunny, is in the house. this whole time, apparently he must have snuck there after his encounter with the wolf. But then, because Red wasn't there yet, he didn't have the book. Because then again, it's after this that you think, they're going to figure out the one component from each story and point out the bunny. Nope. Red gets pissed because her grandma lied to her about being an extreme sports enthusiast. Who cares? You're trying to find a goodie bandit. Now, let's sing a slow-ass sad song about it. Are you done? No? 45 more minutes? Okay. Oh, you done? Okay, sure. That'd be funny if I had clips. Anyway, and I could draw it out longer. But anyway, after the slow-ass sad song, we get them trying to figure out who is doing what. By the way, she took off without her hood because that's what she wears to make the deliveries. They don't make it her everyday clothes. It's what she wears to make the deliveries, so she feels betrayed, so she's behind. Only so they can pull the biggest twist that makes no sense, because we clearly all saw her take the hood off. But they try to play it as if it was Red who did it, because they show her walking out of the bushes and then cut to someone in a red hood jumping into a ski lift thing and flying up and going up. And I'm like, okay, obviously that wasn't Red because we know she wasn't wearing the hood. But they play it out like, you're saying it was Red? No, it's obviously the bunny, which is revealed to be. And Red somehow is able to hang on to the side of the damn thing as they go up. Yeah, the cops go down because that's where they think that the rabbit went. But the other three, being the wolf, Granny, and the woodsman, figure out that they actually went up. So they filled the squirrel full of coffee, which is not a euphemism, and send him down the hill to go after the cops to tell them. And of course, he's full of coffee. They can't really understand him at first, but then they do. And the others show up, and then we gotta have another song about how he's an evil bunny. I don't care. You take the musical sequences out of this, and it would make it so much better. Except for maybe the goat song, because the whole thing with him is that he's been cursed to sing. So him singing throughout this movie, just showing up and singing a random song, would be funny. But other people are also singing songs, so that joke doesn't really make any sense, other than to get another song out of it. But if you have this one running joke where there's only one character that's singing throughout the entire movie because he's cursed, that would make more sense. But no. And I've never seen the second one, but do they reveal that the witch from the next movie is the one who cursed him? I'm predicting that, because I know it's about a witch. I know they do a twist on Hansel and Gretel, but that's as much as I know, because I looked at the cast list. I went, okay, witch and Hansel and Gretel, there's some kind of twist on that. Three Little Pigs are also in there, and the giant from Jack and the Beanstalk, and yeah, I don't know. Anyway, but the Three Little Pigs were police officers in this, right? Right? I don't know anymore. Anyway, unless they're just police officers in this one, I guess. So eventually, I'm wrapping this up. Eventually, they capture him thanks to Red and Granny. And yes, he goes to jail. And then they tease that they're going to work together on another case. So, yeah. Just the middle of the road. It really is. And it could have been a little bit better without all the songs. It could have been honestly, it would be a high middle of the road, but it's just a regular middle of the road here. Because I don't know. Every time there was a song, I was constantly waiting for it to go. I'm like, come on. And to me, it just feels like they're drawing it out. Because, to me, they tell all four of the stories that has one concurrent character that pops up every single time. They should immediately realize, oh, it's the bunny. But they don't. Instead, we have to listen to Red sing a slow-ass sad song. And even then, when we go back to the investigation, they still have to sit there and hem and haw and think about it for a couple minutes before they realize it's the bunny. Because they point at Red first. And I'm like, what? It makes no sense. And if you're trying to fool the audience, don't show her taking off the goddamn hood. Because then you see someone with a red hood sneak on and you think, oh, it's supposed to be Red. No, because we saw her take off the hood. We know it's not her. Even with your clever editing, we know it's not her because we saw her take off the hood. Just don't have her take off the hood if you want to try to trick us. Because it doesn't work otherwise. What also doesn't work? Trying to trick us of who the villain is. Because it's obvious from the very fucking beginning because you casted Andy Dick as the voice of the goddamn bunny. To me, that ruins the twist. Really does. But to me, back in the day, it was the second time that he appears and she falls out of the thing, and I went, okay, it's him. He was reaching for the basket. How did no one see that he was reaching for the basket when he said no? It's obviously him. Hello? But no, you gotta go through that, especially if you're like me, you figure it out, you gotta go through 3 more stories where you just, and every time it pops up, especially if you don't get it from that, you'll get it from the schnitzel cart because he shows up right after the schnitzel cart was robbed. It was him. It was him. And then if you don't get it from that, him showing up and getting the other guy from Granny, and right afterwards the thugs go after her. Hello? Come on. And he misleads the wolf. It's very obvious that it's him. So obvious. But it's the middle of the road. It's fine. Obviously, this movie wasn't meant to age. With the terrible animation that it has. 2 best things. The singing goat and the squirrel. That's it. Those are the 2 best things. But yeah. So what are your thoughts on Hoodwinked? Oh, by the way, did you know they made a sequel? No, I'm not covering it. I did mention there was a sequel. I did. I don't wanna. Okay, maybe. Because I think I'm also going to do Beethoven's second, at least. Now, I got a list of stuff for the next sequel-a-thon. I might not use all of them, but I have the list. So I always draw out a list, and I usually end up doing half of them. So we'll see. But thank you for watching. I've been Sky, and I'll see you in the next one.